Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I just got finished building this floating ghost right here. It goes up about 10.5 feet in the air. It's built on one of those 4-bar style systems on it with a counterweight on the backside. I'm using a small 110 motor for it. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it into the shop, show you what I did and how I built it. Okay, so here we are in the shop. Kind of show you what I got going on. Like I said, this is a kind of what they call a 4-point style system. What that means is you have 2 vertical points, which is our base and the part that the ghost is hooked to, and then 2 horizontal points, which is these bars right here. And all you do is just keep them even, meaning whatever you make for your spacing here, you just make the same here, and that's what keeps a nice lateral movement going up and down. Now you can do this in a single bar where you don't have to have the secondary bar, but then your ghost is going to have to hang from it there, which is going to limit how much height you can go. It also makes it to where you only have 1 point of contact, so it can like sway like this in the wind and stuff like that. It might not look as good. Now for this build, I wanted to show how you can pretty much build this out of everything you can pick up from, say, Lowe's, Home Depot, or something like that. So everything is built out of stuff you get from there. Normally I would have built the base out of like metal because I have a welder and everything. I know not everybody has that, so I wanted to build it out of just stuff that I pick up from Home Depot or Lowe's. So anybody can essentially build this particular project. Now the cable, ignore that. That's just me screwing up. I really should have went with an 1.25-inch pipe for these instead of a 3/4 pipe. I was getting a little too much flex here, so I did that just to counter that. As long as you go with the thicker pipe, you won't have any issues. Now the back here, this is my counterweight. It's not pretty, but it's functional. Just a 5-gallon bucket that I put it on a larger pipe than the one here, so I can actually move it back and forth for a little adjustability. Build it with a couple pieces of center block, and the rest is kitty litter, so I could slowly work on balancing it out. So this way, this thing is perfectly balanced. So the weight that's in there perfectly balanced the length of that plus the weight of that. The motor, just using one of those 110s that you've been seeing me use on some of my props lately. I like them because they're stronger than the reindeer motor, but they're cheaper than the wiper motors. Now, they're obviously not as strong as a wiper motor, but depending on what you're using it for, they actually can have some pretty good torque to them. I'm using a cable for my linkage for the reason if something happens with this, say it gets caught up in the air, something like that, you never know. This gives me a little bit of play so I don't do any damage to the motor. So pretty much the basic concept of this is you got your counterweight in the back here, so everything is perfectly level. As the motor pulls down, you'll pull down on your counterweight, lifting your ghost up in the air. And then just natural gravity will bring it back down to where it needs to be. It's a very easy system, very easy thing to build. So let's go ahead and get into the fabrication portion of the video. Okay, so I have the base pretty much about 90% done. Now, like I said earlier in the video, if I was building this prop, most likely I would have done it out of metal because I have a welder and stuff like that. But I know not everybody has a welder or knows how to weld or has access to that kind of stuff. So I wanted to show how to build it out of wood. So this way you could still build it with just basic set of tools. So this is essentially what I got going on right here. Pretty much what I did is I just made a base of about 36 by 20 inches. I did that because I wanted to make sure I had enough material in the front to help with a little bit of cantilever weight that's going to be up here. And I wanted to have enough on the backside here. So if, say, I got to put a sandbag or something like that back here just to help with any kind of lift or something like that, I have enough material back here to do that. Then I made my uprights out of some plywood. I kind of wish I had some bigger plywood. It's just some stuff I had sitting around. I would love to have made this front support system a little bit longer. What that's for is that's to help keep this rig from wanting to go like this. You know, when you got the weight of the rig on the front, you don't want it to bend like that. And then I also did some supports right here. You're going to have that because obviously you don't want it to go this way. Now, if you're building out of metal, you most likely wouldn't need this. But building it out of wood, you're going to have some kind of side supports like this right here. Now, the biggest thing that's most critical is this little gap you see right here. What this is for is that's where my pipes are going to go through. And the reason I made it 5 inches wide and I made a pocket is because I want to make sure that when I put the pipes in there, when the pipes go through, I want to make sure they have something that's going to keep them from wanting to sway a lot. If I say I have a windy day, I don't want my rig flying back and forth and stuff like that. So what this is going to do, that's going to take a lot of that out of there because it's kind of confined into this space right here. And so that's the reason I did this right here. You really don't want to just like put one upright and one screw because it's going to move back and forth and it's not going to be really stable. So the next step at this point is going to be to start working on my pipes, start getting those in there. Now I plan on making mine come apart in two pieces. I want to be able to make it to where I can take my long upright pieces and unbolt them from two shorter pieces that are going to be right here for storage purposes. That's not something you have to do on yours. I'm just showing other ways you can do it to make sure that, like say you have, space issues or something like that, that you can take it apart and not have to literally disassemble the entire rig to do it. So next step is I'm going to start running these couple pipes right here, and then we'll go from there. So what my plan here is I picked up a couple of these like ground rod, piece right here. I think they're a 3/4 inch. They fit inside this pipe really good. So my game plan is because I plan on doing a two-piece system. When this goes inside here, it's going to stick out about 4 inches like that. This will be inside here. When I run my screw through this, the screw is going to go through both the conduit and this piece at the same time. So this way, that's what's going to, make it part of this pipe right here. And then I'm just going to use this as a simulation. So when I have my full-size pipe, the full-size pipe can go right over top of it like that, and I'll have a screw that'll go through here, or actually a bolt that'll go through, because obviously you don't want it twisting, and that's just going to lock it on here. And what that's going to do, that's going to make it to where I have a nice solid joint right here where I ain't got to worry about it bending or breaking or anything like that. But it allows me that, say when I go to do storage, I pull this off, I can take this, fold this down as far as I can, and I only really have this base right here to store. So I'm going to go ahead and get this mapped out where I want it, drill a hole, get that started, and then we'll go from there. I don't have any nuts or anything like that to lock it in place just yet. I'm just getting it on for the moment. Now, obviously, this ain't going to be this tall. It's just that tall at the moment because I want to figure out how tall my ghost is going to be before I put it on there. But at this point, so now when I put a counterweight on this backside right here to allow for the teeter-totter effect, I either mount a motor here or motor there. I'll be able to get my, like that. Now, obviously, like I said, that pipe at the end is going to definitely be much shorter than that. You see, I definitely got some flexing going on here, and obviously, we definitely don't want that. So, let me go get my ghoul that I'm going to be using on there, figure out how much of that pipe I can cut off so I can get some weight off there. I'll go ahead and start figuring out my weight system, and then we'll kind of go from there. All right, so that pipe was just a little too heavy, and you can see how much that pipe was bending. So I had this really thin piece of square aluminum that I'm going to use instead. So I went ahead and drilled some holes. I put my cross portion right here for the arms. That's the ghost I'm going to be using. So I'm going to get this put on, and we're going to zip tie that on, and then we'll move it up and down and see how it looks. Okay, so I'm at the back here. We're going to be doing our counterweight. Now, I kind of built something similar to this a really long time ago. It was a floating dining room table where I had it made it look like a dining room table, had some skeletons sitting at it, had stuff on top of the table like candles and stuff like that. And kind of the same principle where I had the 2-bar system and the counterweight on the backside. Now, that one was built out of all metal, so my counterweight was used, with one of these, just a heavy-duty car rotor. But since this build is pretty much all about the stuff that you're going to be able to find at Home Depot, Lowe's, as far as all this stuff right here. Obviously, we're not going to go this route because one, this is going to involve welding, which we're trying not to do any kind of welding. Plus, you know, it's not everybody's going to have one of these things sitting around either. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using just a 5-gallon bucket and an extra piece of tubing that's actually bigger than this. And what we want to do here, the reason why we want to do it this way is we want to have the adjustability. So this way, you know, after you put weight inside here, say whatever you have on there is heavier than what, say, right at this location is going to do, you can actually slide this back a little bit and get yourself a little bit more counterweight based on, you know, overall distance away from the pivot point and stuff like that. So pretty much I'm just going to run a screw into this pipe on either side of the bucket, so this way the bucket stays right here, doesn't move. And then once we get where we need it to be, just put a screw right here and we're all done. And then once everything's all painted black and you have it sitting in some bushes or something like that, and you only have really that front hanging out, you're not going to see any of that anyways. But to kind of show the importance of, you know, making this thing, you know, nice and balanced, is I got this car battery right here. Let me see if I can find the balance point. Hopefully, you know, make sure this thing don't slide off and smash me in the toe. But you see, like right now, see how we're pretty much perfectly balanced. So at this point, like a wiper motor would work just fine, or a reindeer motor probably still wouldn't have enough torque, but that other style 110 motor that I've used in the past will probably work just fine, which I'm going to test that out first before I use the wiper motor. But you see, it's not going to take a whole lot of effort to move this because it's evenly weighted on both sides. The most restriction I have is, you saw how hard it was for me to push the pipe through the wood right here. So I got some drag right here. So what I might do is I might spray some WD-40 inside there just to give a little bit more, I guess you'd say, lubrication, slickness, or something like that, which will probably help with a little bit of that right there. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and work on this counterweight. I still got to do this cable, and we should be able to get ready to put a motor on here and see this thing in motion. All right, so I'm going to be trying to use one of these right here on this project right here, because I'm trying to keep this project very simple as possible. You know, before I get into like the wiper motors or anything like that. Now, you've seen me use these before in the past on a few projects, and I do kind of like them because the slower the RPM, the more torque that they have. And according to the, you know, listing, these are a high torque. This is only a 5 RPM, so I'm hoping this is going to do what I need to do. Plus, also what I like about this is you literally just put a plug on there and you're done. You just plug it in and you're okay. The wiper motors are definitely much stronger than this right here, but there's more components to it. One, the wiper motor is more expensive than this right here. Then you also got to have at least a good 5-amp power supply. Then you got to have a little voltage regulator so you can dial the speed down, because you don't want that thing going super fast for this type of prop. So by the time you get all those components, it can get pretty expensive, whereas these right here are only 24 bucks. So as long as this does what we need it to do, this is obviously a much cheaper alternative to do what we need. So let's go ahead and put it on there and see how it works. So I'm going to have to notch out my support here to give myself a little bit more space. All right, so I'm going to make that real fast. All right, test number 1. See what happens. I'm going to have to take a little weight out of my counterweight. Not coming down all the way. All right, show the rig in action. I got my arm going around. You see it'll come through that notch. And then what I did is I just drilled the hole to come inside here, so whatever I use to clamp that, I can clamp it inside the bucket. So this way it's kind of tucked inside there. Not that it's a big deal, but I just figured I'd do it that way. All right, let me go ahead and show you the whole thing moving. All right, so here it is in motion. I don't have it going all the way to the bottom, just I think it'd be kind of weird going all the way completely to the ground. You know, I leave it a little bit off the ground kind of thing, so this way if I have lights and stuff down there. But it actually goes up just a pinch over 10 feet in the air at full extension which is nice and high. That's good enough. So now if you wanted to go with an air powered system, or you want to use the wiper motor, you could probably make your linkage a lot longer, and you could probably get that to go up 12, even 13 feet in the air if you really wanted to. I think 10 is more than adequate. I mean, you think about it, that's high enough. So next step is to go ahead and get everything painted black. We'll get it set up outside, and we'll see the finished product.